Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento. If there's one thing I know about all of us, it is that we all want more business. And so central to getting more business, a lot of times, especially for service-based businesses, is the proposal. And that's why I'm so excited for all of us to learn from today's guest, because not only is she one of us, in fact, she owns multiple businesses. She's a multiple-time entrepreneur, but this is someone who really saw in advance the opportunities with AI to really revolutionize the RFP, request for proposal process. So let me introduce you to today's guest and fellow entrepreneur. Her name is Shelley Simkins. Shelley is a seasoned entrepreneur and consulting veteran who transitioned from the world of big consulting to build a successful strategic practice in health technology. Driven by her own frustrations with inefficient RFP processes, she envisioned a better way, leveraging her foresight into advancing AI technology to create her company, which we're going to talk a lot about today. I'm so excited to hear about it, called Proquesto. Prior to Proquesto, Shelley held leadership positions at Huron Consulting, Accenture, and various startups where she cultivated her expertise in driving growth and innovation. Her leadership is distinguished by dedication to utilizing cutting-edge technology, which we all love, for operational streamlining and delivering superior client value. Under Shelley's guidance, Proquesto is poised to revolutionize the RFP landscape with AI-powered solutions, setting new industry insights. And I think that for anyone who's ever sat down to fulfill an RFP process, because it is a process, not just about the proposal itself, there's so much more that goes into it, or you've just sat down to write a proposal, you know how many frustrations there are. We're going to learn a lot today. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Shelley Simkins. All right, Shelley, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Heck yes, Shelley, I'm so excited because it just seems to me like you really operate on that entrepreneurial level. You see opportunities and you take action and you chase after those opportunities. So take us beyond the bio. Who's Shelley? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a nurse by background, so I would say unique, going from being a nurse all the way to running an RFP product company. So I spent about 15 years in nursing leadership positions throughout mid to larger size health systems. Really, I think I had to do actually a lot of reflecting, Brian, by the questions that you're going to ask me today, to really say, what have I harnessed and learned throughout my transition across careers, and how do I take those skills and how am I building upon them and leveraging and utilizing some of those skills from transition to transition. So in traditional nursing clinical leadership positions, I believe that really taught me, one is compassion for people, how important people are, how important culture is to organizations of driving success, because I saw that as a nursing leader where, we're very focused on patient care and delivering high quality patient care. And when I took care of my nurses and my units, the quality scores went up, the patient satisfaction scores went up. So really, I wanted to really harness those skills as I built Proquesto as well. Then I transitioned from a healthcare leadership position into big consulting. So I did some time, as you've mentioned, at Huron as well as at Accenture, and that's where I really got into the RFP process. And I will tell you, it is, as a subject matter expert responding to an RFP, there were a lot of late nights. There were a lot of writing RFP content because there was no system in place other than a manual system, even in big consulting, to essentially pull together that response. Not alone the race that you take to essentially respond with questions that you have once you read the RFP. And we can get into that whole how that essentially basically requires about 24 or 48 hours notice on top of you doing your other jobs. And then once I left big consulting, I went to a startup company. So I've done RFP writing with an entire marketing team that is supporting you from an RFP perspective, to a 3-person team at a startup just trying to use that as an increasing revenue source for the startup company. To tell you the truth, I was sitting in big consulting. I remember it very distinctly. It was about 3 years ago. I was sitting in Colorado with my family. We had bought ski tickets. We were going to go skiing for a few days, visiting friends out there, and an RFP hit on December the 19th. It was due by the end of December. So my family went skiing. They went to go visit friends. They went to go have fun. And I sat in a hotel lobby, in a hotel room, 12 hours a day, pushing out RFP content and revising and refining. And I did that with a small group of people. And at that point, I said, never again. I have to give people back their work-life balance and not be spending an entire Christmas vacation or sacrificing time with your family in order to respond to an RFP. So that was the beginning of Proquesto. I called up another business owner who has a very successful tech company. He and I met through networking, and I was telling him the story and frankly complaining on why there isn't a product in the market that can help people write RFPs and essentially get them about 75% there utilizing AI. And he's like, that's a really great question. Have you done any competitive analysis? And so I went out and I looked, and yeah, there are some large RFP vendors out there. Typically mid to smaller size businesses can't afford them just from a price tag perspective. And there's a lot of complexity and a lot of features and functionalities that frankly, a lot of smaller to mid-sized businesses really don't need. So that essentially I said, we have to do something about this, because he's writing RFPs too. So he has the same stories as I do. And he said, we should do something about this. I said, absolutely. We should develop a product and we should bring this to market just to help people. So that's how Proquesto was formed.
Yes, I love that overview, Shelley, because so many great businesses and solutions are born out of pain points. And it's great to hear that you are your own customer. You were your own customer, and the fact that you very much felt that pain. You use the word complexities, and Shelley, I feel like both you and I are already alluding to the fact that an RFP is not merely a proposal. I've said process, you've said systems. We keep throwing these terms around there. For listeners who probably haven't been, especially in that big consulting world, to see what really goes behind all of these proposals, the entire RFP process, walk us through what that looks like and so many of those complexities and considerations along the way.
Sure, absolutely. So, first thing is, and I actually talk about this a lot from a Proquesto perspective, is the first pivotal step is go or no go. There is typically in big consulting, and I will tell you, even at a startup, you need to have a go or a no go conversation. There can be things within that RFP that essentially you may not exactly have the skill set with. You may need to go out and actually elicit a strategic partner to partner with you in responding to this RFP because it's so large and the skill set is so diverse of what the issuer is asking for. So I would say that, go and no go is a really important step of this, and knowing that you don't have to respond to every RFP. The second step of that, particularly when you get into really large consulting, is essentially they bring together a very large team comprised of marketing, sales, subject matter experts, writers, content writers. Within this, I've been on 25 people teams in RFP processes. And there is always a race of questions that need to be asked. So you read the RFP, then you start formulating your questions of what you need to ask the issuer of the RFP, because there may be things in there that you are questioning the validity of it. Because I will tell you, issuers put out RFPs all the time that they're copying and pasting from old RFPs, and you're reading the RFP and you're like, why are they asking for this? This doesn't even make sense. So it gives you time to really process that, to really think about that, and what questions, clarifying questions do I need to ask that's going to put me as a differentiator against all the other people that are responding to RFPs. Then from there, then you're a mad dash to writing once you get those answers back. And it's constant revision, constant tweaking, constant retooling from a marketing perspective, that sales lens that separates you from the pack of all the other RFPs that they're going to be getting. And then from there, once the issuer receives the RFP, and then you go into a down selection process. So if you're down selected, now you're off to another presentation called orals, which then that's a whole PowerPoint presentation where you go in and you're actually selling what you stated in the RFP. And then from there, then there's a decision of whether the issuer is going to choose you to win that RFP. So things that you have to think about in the background, especially if you're a mid to smaller size business, is one, that's a lot of cost of sales. It's a lot of manpower. These subject matter experts and marketing individuals that are helping formatting, as well as making sure that you meet the evaluation criteria that is in that RFP. People are working feverishly. I mean, it was nothing to spend about 40 hours literally writing and responding to an RFP when you don't have a tool like Proquesto. And I will tell you, we drink our own Kool-Aid even today. You alluded to the fact that I own multiple businesses. So do my two co-founders. And so we use our own tool as we're responding to RFPs in our other companies. So we're constantly refining our product as well as our expertise and pouring that into our product so that people have a good quality product that really works for them.
Yeah, Shelley, it's so cool the way that you break this down, not only step by step. Listeners know that all of these conversations are very much on the fly. So, I mean, this stuff is second nature to you because you've been inside this world for so long. But the fact that you call out the real life costs of the RFP process, every single listener, every single business owner can relate to the fact that when we're looking to gain a new client, when we're looking to convert a sale, it requires time, it requires resources. And you called out, if this is a 40-hour process, what I really want to remind listeners of is that this is one proposal of many that's being submitted. And so when you talk about all these different things, you pointed out the part about differentiation. I'd love for you to go a little bit deeper there, because I've seen, just in 18 years of being an entrepreneur and of course hosting a business podcast, so many people, Shelley, think that that merely means differentiating and competing based on price, where of course there's so many different ways to stand out in the proposal process. I always argue if you're competing on price, you've already lost. So Shelley, please walk us through, how can we successfully differentiate in the proposal process?
I think depending on how you're responding and what you're responding to, there's several different ways. Yes, price is one point, but I will tell you, you can differentiate yourself on quality, the quality of whatever it is that you're responding to. So I'll use an example of if I'm responding to a services proposal around consulting in any industry around how I'm going to help them manage and solve the complexity of better utilization of their workforce management technology. This is where personally good client stories help greatly. I have a certain way that I'll respond to those RFPs that differentiates myself, because I'll actually tell a client story, an actual real life client story. And I've sat in more RFP orals and more written RFPs. And they said, wow, nobody really approached the RFP process. They wanted to tell me about their services and offerings, but you actually told me how you really solved a client problem. Wow, can I talk to them as a reference? Because you'll always have to provide references as you're getting down selected and going through the RFP process. And it's really about being authentic and genuine in your writing, and not just saying what's on your website, not just saying what is your offerings and what methodology you're going to use. Really make sure that it's real life scenarios, and leverage and utilize writing in a different way that really makes as they're looking at RFP across RFP across RFP, that they really say, wow, they really poured themselves into this RFP. I want to do business with them.
Yeah, Shelley, it's funny you say that, because that's what I've always viewed, is that the process is part of the sell, is that people notice how you operate, not just what you're saying. And it's really that thing. I remember in my early 20s when I started a marketing consulting agency in the Boston area, part of what I would do after I would send a proposal to the business owner, of course I was operating on the business owner level, is I would send them a selfie video, just checking in with them. And it was that personal touch that I guarantee no other agencies at that time were doing that. This is 2012-ish. And so there weren't all the modern technologies. Now, fortunately, we're very lucky that in today's world, there are so many powerful technologies. And Shelley, that's where I'm very much going to turn this back on you, because I love the fact that you hit that breaking point, the action point, the decision point to start Proquesto in the era of AI. Obviously, AI is more accessible now than it's ever been before. You've got to talk to us about that opportunity that you saw, because what you're doing with Proquesto, it's not just asking ChatGPT of, hey, can you write this proposal for me? Here's the specs. Walk us through the AI element inside of Proquesto.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you take a look at the current RFP products that are on the market today, What we hear time and time again as we're talking to prospects as well as our client base is the tools that are out there today, there's a lot of meta tagging that has to happen manually in the knowledge base. And the meta tagging is what essentially basically helps us bring in the data and the refresh data into our current product. So the meta tagging we've taken care of behind the scenes. And that is a big game changer, especially when you don't have to keep the manual upkeep of what they call the knowledge bases, which is where you would store all of your older RFPs. As well as whenever we're talking and pulling in that, the product is pulling in that information as you're answering the questions on the RFP, we also have a chat bot. It's called Questy. So Questy actually will help you bring knowledge in from, you may be on a question, you're like, I really don't like the way that this is worded. I'm pretty sure we had a graphic. Let's change this out for a graphic, but I don't have it in the knowledge base. Well, our product will go out onto your computer, find the graphic, insert it, and then essentially basically update that to where it's matching into the flow of the RFP. As well as we have automated questions. So it will read the entire RFP. Like, remember I was talking about the mad dash for questions. Sometimes you get 24 to 48 hours to ask your questions and you've barely read the RFP. Well, our Proquesto reads the RFP and then it will give you a very robust library of questions based upon that RFP so that you can just either export that and send that to the issuer and be done in 3 minutes, or you can go through them and say, I'm going to ask these select questions rather than sending all of those over. So we've built in every step, every pain point that we have felt, we have brought either AI or some type of technology advancement into the product to help expedite you. So, for example, just because we use our own product, I will tell you, we've gone from about spending 30 to 40 hours literally writing content for RFPs and doing the refinements, that we have gotten that down personally ourselves to we can turn an RFP around and we can essentially submit it out in a matter of 2 days.
Shelley, that is a huge stat. And it really brings me back to the way that you articulated something earlier in our conversation where you said, this is about getting you from 0 to that 75%. AI can handle all of that, which I think is an important point to emphasize for listeners, because all too frequently, I'll call this out, Shelley, is that in the marketing world, people think that they can just copy and paste what ChatGPT is doing for social media content. Everybody sounds the same. And it sounds to me, Shelley, even though you are a tech founder, you own an AI-based company, you're out there saying, no, let this do the legwork. You use the word expedite. Let this expedite your process. Let this expedite your progress on the RFP so that you can really hone in on that last 25% or the last, 2 out of 10 steps, whatever that looks like. Talk to us about that approach, because it feels to me like that's the perfect combination of technology plus that human touch that you and I, it seems we just keep coming back to that.
Yeah, so our product really gets you first draft 75% complete so that you can spend your time and your subject matter experts that need to provide content into the RFP process. They're reviewing what's there that's pulled from the latest and greatest RFPs that you've just written. So as you essentially put more RFPs in our knowledge base, it pulls the most recent content, and it actually gives you a confidence score of how confident the AI was that they completely answered the question. So your subject matter experts now can say, okay, well, it confidently answered at 85, 90%. I'm just going to review this. Great, move on. There's going to be some areas in the RFP that maybe the issuer's asking something that's new for you. Maybe your methodology's changed. Maybe your approach to something has changed. That confidence score may be around 50%. It gives you a place to where you know where you need to focus and what you don't need to focus on. So this is where it's the power of the human element being able to leverage their critical thinking and creativity without getting bogged down and getting basically overloaded because there's so much detail that has to be put into an RFP. So it really starts honing in focus and where you need to spend majority of your time. And that's the beauty of Proquesto, and that's really why our customers love Proquesto so much. I have a client who actually has response to RFPs all the time. In fact, I actually, they were to the point they were turning down RFPs because it was taking them so long. So they would actually have to triage all the RFPs that they're responding to. And essentially, basically, our product can allow them to respond to more RFPs, i.e. increasing win rate, i.e. increasing revenue stream.
Yeah, Shelley, hearing you talk about this, it actually furthers my belief that AI is the great equalizer. I think about, the Shelley of yesterday that you were working at Accenture, and you had this advantage of having big teams. You had this advantage of having all these resources, a deep, extensive knowledge base, I'm sure, and a lot of RFPs historically to pull from. Small business owners don't have that, and they haven't had that, whereas AI is that great equalizer. It makes me think back to in 2012 when I started my marketing agency. I was texting my friends who worked at BCG, who worked at Deloitte, and I was like, what are you guys doing in your proposals? Like, what does big business look like? Shelley, how much of that is baked into Proquesto? How much can Proquesto help someone who's never written a successful proposal before navigate these things? Does Proquesto itself know what a great RFP solution looks like? How's that work?
It does, because we've poured our entire knowledge of writing proposals among the three of us, my two co-founders and myself. We probably have well over 25 years experience collectively writing and responding to RFPs. And so we've actually poured the best of our knowledge into the product, because this is about making people successful. This is about allowing small businesses and mid-sized businesses who have limited to no marketing departments, because you're most likely, as just as I am, a product owner of a company, I'm very strategic in how I'm going to spend my dollars. So if I can bring a product in that expedites that, so that now I can open up a revenue stream I had no clue I had the opportunity at even, that's a game changer for me as a small to mid-sized business. Also, I get experience and exposure in industries so that I get my branding and my name out there as well. So I think there's just a win-win-win for that market segment.
Yeah, for sure. I want to pick on you and your fellow co-founders, because obviously that experience you bring to the table, that's the invaluable part of what you're doing. Obviously, a lot of people are building on technology, but the fact that you're injecting that experience, the real life practical experience into the product, is obviously a huge benefit to your customer base. You mentioned that all of you as co-founders are also other business owners as well. You all are doing this still in the real world. I'm a big believer that sharpens your sword, is that if you operate in multiple spheres of business, it keeps you up to date on what real life business owners are facing. I don't just host a business podcast. I have multiple businesses of my own, and that's why we can so deeply understand what it means to be an entrepreneur or a business owner. So, Shelley, what does that look like for you and your co-founders? How are you all balancing your day-to-day businesses, as well as obviously you have huge ambitions with what you're doing with Proquesto? Take us behind the scenes into the life of multi-entrepreneurs.
Yeah, first I think I have to talk about how I selected my co-founders, and I was very strategic in that, because I think if you found a business with other individuals, it's easy to go down the path of founding people who all think alike or who all come from the same space. So one of my co-founders has spent probably majority of his career in sales, and I know it's pivotal when you're a new company. You've got to have a strong sales engine, because that's what brings in your revenue. So he has a vast amount of experience from a sales perspective, brings a lot of great sales strategy to the table. My other co-founder, as I mentioned earlier, he owns his own other product company. And he also was a Deloitte consultant. So he came from big consulting. In fact, both of my other co-founders came from big consulting. One of them that was in sales. He and I have worked together side by side at the sales table for the last 8 years. So we know each other really well. So I have to say that if you're founding a business, if you're a entrepreneur and you're looking to found a business, make sure that you surround yourself with a lot of business diversity and how people think, because I think it keeps us all sharp. It keeps us motivated, as well as, I think as far as being able to really understand and turn the engines on when the engines need to be turned on, because we were in stealth mode from a product company for about, I would say, 4 or 5 months. And we have just now really gone outbound from a sales engine perspective. And I would say that decision, there was a lot of conversations, I will tell you, among the three of us on when you turn that engine on. So I I give you that example to say it's good to have people who don't think alike and who challenge each other. And I think we have a healthy balance across three of us. In fact, we say that, we own multiple businesses. We actually just co-founded a second business together because it works so well.
Yeah, I love that, Shelley. So what does that look like? You talk about balance. Does that look like weekly executive meetings across the three of you where you intentionally say, hey, let's carve this time out and talk about Proquesto? Is it a daily, like Shelley wakes up and in the morning you're focusing on your workforce management technology business, in the afternoon you're focusing on Proquesto? I'd love to really get behind the scenes there.
Yeah. So, during the week, Monday through Friday, we are sort of double dutying it. There are times during the day that we're demoing our product with potential sales prospects and clients. And at the same time, I have to flip that hat off and flip the other hat on and go to a different client call that has nothing to do with my RFP product. And we all balance that as well as we can. We do meet once a week right now as part of an executive team. In fact, actually over the summer, we brought on an intern that essentially is at the business school in Chapel Hill. I will tell you that it's the best thing that we've ever done, because I will tell you that he even brings up things on our calls and we're like, oh, we didn't even think about that. That's really great. It's learning for him. It keeps us young as a company because this is the next generation that's going to be in the workforce and in those executive positions making those decisions. And so it's great to get his frame of reference as well. He's on our Friday calls and will be through the summer. And then also once a quarter, we get together in person. And I will tell you, there's a lot of power of being in person and really strategizing on what the next quarter is going to look like.
Yes, I love that approach. Everybody knows behind the scenes at this podcast, that's something we strive for. It's very hard to carve out time in everybody's busy schedules, especially with a global team, but we're big believers in the quarterly retreat philosophy. We actually here at the time you and I are recording, we just finished one of our quarterly retreats, and I think it's so important, and it really, changing environments changes the way that you think and the way that you see the world. And Shelley, you called out having a college intern. Young blood, the older that I get, the more I realize young blood brings fresh energy, fresh work ethic, fresh all of that. So I love the fact that as a tech company pushing the envelope, Shelley, is that you're doing it not just in what you do, but how you do it. And I feel like that's such a core theme from today's conversation. So I'm really excited to hear how you answer this last question. It's super broad. You can take it in any direction you want. And that is, what's your best piece of advice for listeners? Knowing that we're being listened to by both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys, and also knowing that you're one of us, and you already called out the entrepreneurs in the audience a little bit earlier. I'm appreciative of that. What's that piece of advice that you want to leave them with today?
I would say one, as I said before, make sure you're surrounding yourself and co-founding with people who bring a lot of different skills to the table and a lot of different lenses of the industry and life. I would say if you are even an entrepreneur, the more that you drink your own Kool-Aid of what you're selling, the better off you're going to resonate in the market, because people trust people who utilize their own services and product and can speak to that, and it will naturally just flow out of you from a sales perspective. It does with me in both of my businesses, and it goes a long ways from a credibility perspective in the market. I would say the third thing, because I thought a lot about this and I'm like, what is it that I struggle with now and how have I looked to solve some of that? Leverage these AI back office productivity tools. I'll tell you, I survive off of them. I survive off of ClickUp. It consolidates everything for me so that I'm not going across 3 and 4 and 5 different email accounts and trying to keep up with everything. It's a one-stop source. Leverage all of that. I mean, to be honest with you, our plan is, because we have multiple businesses now, to leverage as much AI from a back office perspective to keep our overhead costs down so that we can continue to deliver value to our clients no matter which company we're working with.
Yes, so well said. Powerful advice, Shelley. And what I most appreciate about it is it's, again, from your experience. This is not hypothetical advice. This is advice that you heed. You drink your own Kool-Aid, not just in the way that you operate and the products that you build, but especially in the advice that you give and in the way that you operate. So I'm so appreciative for the way that you've shown up here today, Shelley. I'm also, as someone from the outside looking in, doing my research on you ahead of our conversation together here today, I love your messaging. I love the way that you've carved out who it is that you serve and how you serve them on the Proquesto website. You guys don't mince your words. I mean, I love the first paragraph. Everyone hates writing proposals, but we have to do them. And so then you talk about how Proquesto changes that game. So Shelley, for listeners who want to go deeper into all the great stuff that you're doing, drop those links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
Yeah, you can go to www.proquesto.com. That will give you a good feel for our product and how it can help you. As well as we are doing a live event on August the 18th where we're going to be talking about the RFP process for small to mid-sized businesses and how that can increase and open up a revenue stream that you may not have thought of or thought was attainable at the stage that your company's in today. So if you would like to join us, we do have a registration page up on our website, and we are happy to take you through the RFP process and how you can grow your business with it.
Boom, listeners, you already know the drill. This can be the beginning of your journey and all these amazing things that Shelley is doing. So check the show notes down below. You're going to find all of Shelley's relevant links, including Proquesto.com. You don't have to worry about remembering that. If you're on the go, click right on through from the show notes. We're also linking to Shelley's personal LinkedIn. So if you want to reach out to her, continue the conversation. You can see, obviously, all of you listeners know this is entirely off the cuff. Shelley is so sharp on all of these topics because she lives in it. She is doing it every single day across her business portfolio. So definitely check those links out down below, wherever it is that you're tuning in. Otherwise, Shelley, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.